My boyfriend broke up with me via whiteboard, and it's all my fault. It's been 3 days. 72 hours since I heard the front door click shut for the last time, and the silence Grayson left behind is a physical thing, you know. It's heavy, like a blanket soaked in water, pressing in on me from every corner of my apartment. But the real monster, the thing I can't stop staring at, is the whiteboard. It's standing right in the middle of the living room, like some kind of sick, modern art installation I commissioned for my own destruction. His words are a clean, final verdict in his perfect, steady script. Goodbye, Amelia. It's so him. No exclamation points, no anger, just a simple, factual statement. A closed case. And right below that sentence, there's just this void. A blank space that screams louder than anything I've ever heard. That was supposed to be my turn, right? My moment to write something, anything. The blue marker was still in my hand, I swear, but my fingers went numb. It was like my brain just short-circuited, the connection to my hand completely severed. I couldn't write wait. I couldn't write no. The words were trapped. This whole thing, this entire, stupid, silent week was supposed to be my brilliant strategy. My masterstroke to prove a point. God, I was so sure I was in control. Now that board isn't my tool. It's a tombstone, and he carved the epitaph himself before walking right out of my life. It's funny, right? How you can be standing in the absolute wreckage of your life, and all your brain wants to do is play the highlight reel of how beautiful everything used to be. Grayson was solid. He was my safe place. The kind of guy who wasn't complicated, you know? What you saw was what you got, and what you got was this warm, steady presence that made you feel like everything was going to be okay. But he had this one thing. This one, single, non-negotiable rule: he did not play games. He despised the silent treatment, passive aggression, any of that manipulative crap. His whole philosophy was, if there's a problem, we sit down at the kitchen table, look each other in the eye, and we talk it out until it's fixed. We can solve anything, Amelia, as long as we're talking. I remember, maybe 6 months into our relationship, we had some stupid, forgotten argument. I think I was mad he was late for a movie. So I did my classic move, the deep freeze. Pursed lips, one-word answers, the whole performance. It lasted maybe a day before he showed up with my favorite takeout and apologized, even though he hadn't really done anything wrong. But after we ate, he sat me down on the couch and his face was so serious. He wasn't mad, not at all. He just looked scared. He took my hands and said, "Amelia, I love you. You know that, right? But please, don't ever do this again, this silent thing. It's poison, just talk to me. Whatever it is, we can fix it if we talk. But games will kill us." And me, God, what an idiot. I heard the I love you part. I saw the takeout. I registered the apology as a win. The rest of it, the this will kill us part. It just sounded dramatic. I filed it away in my brain under Grayson's quirks, right next to hate cilantro and can't sleep with socks on. I honestly thought of it as just a weird little preference of his. I never, not for 1 second, understood that it wasn't a quirk. It was the entire foundation. It was a warning label I was too damn arrogant to read. The whole thing started over something so monumentally stupid. I can barely stand to think about it now without wanting to physically cringe. We were at a dinner party at his colleague Tom's house. It was one of those perfect suburban nights, good wine, the smell of garlic bread wafting from the kitchen, everyone laughing a little too loudly. Grayson was holding court, of course. He's a fantastic storyteller, you know? He gets animated, uses his hands, draws everyone in. And the story he chose to tell was about me. It was the bookshelf story. "You guys have to hear this," he started, a huge grin on his face. So Amelia gets this idea in her head that she's going to be a DIY queen. He launched into the tale of how I, armed with nothing but a confusing YouTube tutorial and misplaced confidence, had tried to build a 6-foot oak bookshelf. The punchline, of course, was that I ended up accidentally supergluing my own hand to a half-assembled plank. He even acted it out, the look of pure, unadulterated panic on my face as I realized I was stuck, me waddling through the apartment with a board for a hand, trying to call him for help. Our friends were howling. Tom was wiping tears from his eyes, and I was just sitting there, a tight, brittle smile plastered on my face. I could feel the heat rising in my cheeks. Every laugh felt like a tiny, sharp jab. All I could think was, he's making me the butt of the joke. In front of his work friends. He's painting me as this ditzy, incompetent woman-child. It felt like a profound betrayal, a public humiliation disguised as a cute anecdote. I know how that sounds now. But in that moment, my pride just shattered. The car ride home was a tomb. The silence was so thick you could have cut it with a knife. The second our apartment door was closed, it started. "I can't believe you told that story," I said, my voice dangerously low. He was still buzzing from the party, completely oblivious. He tossed his keys in the bowl by the door. "What?" "The bookshelf story. It was hilarious. It's one of my favorite stories about us." "It makes me look like a complete idiot, Grayson," I shot back. "You're supposed to be my partner, to build me up, not use me for a cheap laugh with your colleagues." His smile finally faded. He looked genuinely confused. "A cheap laugh. Amelia, it's a funny, harmless story. It's endearing. People love that story because it's real. You're being way too sensitive." And that was it, the trigger, those two words. Too sensitive. It was his go-to phrase whenever my feelings were inconvenient for him. "I am not being sensitive," I said, my voice rising. "I am asking for a little respect. And I'm telling you, it wasn't disrespectful," he said, his own frustration growing. "God, I'm not going to apologize for telling a great story about my favorite person." He walked away, ending the conversation. But for me, it was just beginning. I couldn't sleep. I paced the living room for hours, the argument replaying in my head on a loop, each replay making me feel more righteous, more incandescent with rage. He just didn't get it. He refused to see my side. Arguing with him was pointless. He'd just dismiss my feelings as irrational. And then, in the sterile blue light of the early morning, my eyes landed on it. The big whiteboard we used for project planning and grocery lists, leaning against the wall in the study. An idea, a terrible, brilliant idea, bloomed in my mind. It was a jolt of pure, cold clarity. Emotion wasn't working, so I would remove it from the equation entirely. I would give him what he wanted, a relationship devoid of messy feelings. I would show him what a true breakdown in communication felt like. The plan was simple, elegant, and in my mind, utterly foolproof. For 1 week, I would go completely mute. All necessary communication would happen on that board, and it wouldn't be scribbled notes. It would be sterile, formal, corporate speak. I wasn't just giving him the silent treatment that was for amateurs. No, this was a sociological experiment, a performance piece. I honestly felt a chilling thrill. I wasn't the sensitive girlfriend anymore. I was the one in control. I was the strategist, the director, and I was so damn sure he was going to break. The first morning was electric. I was buzzing with this cold, vindictive energy, like an actress backstage on opening night. I got up before him, showered, and put on my most severe work outfit, a tailored blazer and slacks. Armor. I was making coffee when he padded into the kitchen, still sleepy, his hair sticking up in that way I usually found adorable. He wrapped his arms around my waist from behind, his chin resting on my shoulder, and mumbled a warm, gravelly, morning, beautiful into my neck. It was our ritual. Normally, I'd lean back into him, turn my head, and we'd kiss. But that morning, I just stood there, completely rigid, my hands gripping the warm coffee mug. I became a statue. I didn't turn, I didn't soften, I didn't make a sound. He felt the change instantly. He pulled back, his voice thick with confusion. "Amelia, everything okay?" I calmly set down my mug, picked up a black dry erase marker from the magnetic holder on the fridge, and uncapped it with a deliberate, theatrical click. I walked over to the whiteboard I'd propped up against the kitchen counter like a defendant's exhibit. In neat, sterile block letters, I wrote, "Query. Has the utility bill for the current fiscal month been remitted?" I'll never forget the look on his face. It was a slow-motion cascade of emotions. First, utter bewilderment, like he was trying to solve a complex riddle. Then a flicker of a smile, as if he thought it was the start of some elaborate, quirky joke. He even chuckled a little. "Okay, that's a new one. Is this like a new game?" But then he looked at my face, my dead serious, completely blank, unblinking expression, and the smile just evaporated. It slid right off his face, replaced by this deep, wounded confusion. "What is this?" he asked, his voice soft, gentle. "Amelia, what are you doing? Talk to me." I didn't speak. I just pointed a single, steady finger at the whiteboard. The rules were the rules. He was to engage with the system. That first day set the tone for the most suffocating, bizarre week of my life. Our apartment, once our warm, chaotic sanctuary, transformed into this sterile, silent office space from hell. I was the unfeeling administrator, and he was the increasingly desperate employee. Every single interaction was filtered through that damn board. When he tried to ask me about my day after work, I wrote, "Status report. All scheduled tasks for Tuesday were completed without significant incident." When he asked what I wanted for dinner, I wrote, "Proposal. A shared meal consisting of the leftover pasta is deemed the most efficient option for resource allocation." I even referred to him in the third person. Inquiry. Will the occupant be utilizing the primary television screen this evening? He tried everything to break me. At first, he tried to play along, writing silly, sarcastic responses on a notepad. Response: the utility bill will be remitted pending a full audit of your current, insane behavior. I ignored it. Then he tried being affectionate, leaving me little "I love you" notes on my pillow, trying to catch my hand or hug me as I walked past. I'd just sidestep him, my body language as cold and unyielding as my silence. He tried getting angry, raising his voice, pacing the living room and telling me how childish and manipulative and insane this all was. I would just stand there, my face a perfect mask of neutrality, and wait for him to be done so I could write my next official communication. The worst was on day 4. He just sat across from me at the dinner table, not even touching his food, and his eyes looked so tired. "Amelia, please," he said, his voice cracking. "I'm sorry, okay. I'm sorry about the story. I was an idiot. I was trying to be funny and I hurt you. I get it. Can we please just stop this? I miss you. I miss your voice. This is torture." God, that almost broke me. My heart was screaming, it was physically aching in my chest. "Yes, it's over," he apologized, "hug him." But my pride, that cold, hard, tyrannical thing in my chest, was louder. It was a snake whispering in my ear. "He's only saying that because he's uncomfortable. He doesn't really mean it. He hasn't learned the lesson. Stick to the plan. See it through. Make him understand the gravity." So I picked up the marker, my hand shaking just a little, and wrote, "Acknowledgement. Your verbal input has been received and will be taken under advisement pending a review of behavioral patterns." He read it, and I watched something in him just die. It wasn't dramatic. It was a quiet, internal collapse. The light in his eyes just went out, and after that, he stopped trying. He stopped talking to me, stopped leaving notes, stopped looking at me altogether. He started coming home later and later, and when he was home, he'd just put on his headphones and stare at his laptop in the corner. The silence in the apartment changed. It was no longer a tense silence that I was controlling. It was a dead silence. An empty one. The only sound was the squeak of my marker on the whiteboard, a sound I now associate with absolute dread. With every sterile, stupid word I wrote, I felt like I was scraping away another layer of whatever we had left. It was day 7. The final day of my self-imposed psychological warfare, the finish line of my stupid, silent marathon. And honestly, I was a wreck. The righteous, incandescent anger that had fueled me for the first few days had long since fizzled out, replaced by a gnawing, desperate loneliness that felt like a physical illness. The thrill of being in control had curdled into a constant, low-grade panic. I missed him. God, I missed him so much it was an actual ache in my bones. I missed the sound of his stupid, off-key humming while he made breakfast. I missed the way he'd absent-mindedly play with my hair while we watched TV. I missed his voice. I just wanted to hear his voice again. I was done. I just wanted it to be over. I spent the entire day rehearsing my surrender speech in my head. I'd let him come home, I'd let him see the board one last time, and then I would just speak. I would say his name, that would be enough. But that damn pride, it's a parasite. It has its own life, its own agenda. Even then, on the brink of my own sanity, it wouldn't let me be the one to break. It was a venomous whisper in the back of my mind. "You've come this far, Amelia. You've held strong for 168 hours. Don't fold now. One more night. Let him be the one to officially surrender. Let him be the one to say he was wrong. You've earned that." So I steeled myself for one last performance. Victory was just hours away. He came home late that night, well after 11. I was pretending to read on the couch, but the book was upside down in my lap, and my entire body was a tightly coiled spring. Every creak of the floorboards in the hallway was a gunshot. I heard his keys in the lock, the soft, final click of the door. He walked in, and I immediately knew something was different. Terribly different. He wasn't tired or angry or sad anymore. All of those emotions were gone. He was just calm, eerily calm. His face was a complete blank slate, an emptiness so profound it scared me more than any rage ever could. He didn't even look at me. It was like I was a piece of furniture, a ghost in my own living room. His eyes went straight to the whiteboard, locking onto it like a target. He walked right past the couch, his movements slow and deliberate, and stood in front of it. He reached out and picked up the other marker from the tray, the thick, black one, the one we never used unless it was for something permanent, something important. He uncapped it with a soft pop that echoed in the dead silence. My heart started hammering against my ribs so hard I thought he must be able to hear it. This was it. A jolt of pure, triumphant adrenaline shot through me, drowning out the fear. He's going to do it. He's going to write "I'm sorry." He was finally going to admit defeat. All this pain, this awful, silent week, it was all worth it. I had won. I had taught him his lesson. He took the little felt eraser and, with one clean, methodical swipe, wiped away the last thing I had written that morning. It was something so pathetic and domestic, something like, "Inquiry regarding weekend grocery procurement." He just erased it, wiping the slate clean for his surrender. He paused for a second, his eyes on the blank white surface, the black marker poised in his hand. And then, in his perfect, steady, heartbreakingly neat handwriting, the same handwriting from every birthday card he'd ever given me, he wrote 2 words. "Goodbye, Amelia." Time didn't just slow down, it shattered. For a split second, my brain refused to process the words. It was like seeing a sentence in a language I didn't know. "Goodbye, Amelia." It didn't make sense. It wasn't part of the plan. The plan was for him to write "I'm sorry." The plan was for him to break. He capped the marker, the click sounding like a gunshot in the silent room, and placed it gently back in the tray. Then he turned, and for the first time all night he looked at me. But he wasn't really looking at me. He was looking through me. His eyes were hollow. Then he walked, without a word, into our bedroom. The silence that followed was different. It was active. It was filled with the sounds of my world ending. The slide of the closet door opening. The soft thump of a suitcase being pulled down. The rustle of clothes being taken off hangers. Each sound was a separate, distinct blow to my chest. I was completely paralyzed. My body felt like it was encased in concrete. The blue marker was still clutched in my hand, but my fingers were numb, useless. I wanted to run in there, to scream, to cry, to throw myself at his feet. I wanted to grab the whiteboard and write "wait" in giant, frantic letters. Write "don't go." Write "I was wrong, I was so wrong." But I couldn't move. That same toxic pride that had started this whole nightmare was now holding me hostage, nailing my feet to the floor. It was screaming at me, "Don't you dare beg. Don't you give him the satisfaction." He was only in there for a few minutes. He came out pulling the small carry-on suitcase we'd bought together for our trip to the coast. He walked right past me, his face still a perfect, emotionless mask. He didn't look at me. He didn't look at the whiteboard. He just walked to the front door, unlocked it, and pulled it open. For one heart-stopping moment, he paused in the doorway, his back to me. I prayed, he would turn around. He would say something, anything. He didn't. The door clicked shut, and the deadbolt slid into place with a final, metallic thud. And in that moment, I knew it wasn't a game anymore. It was over. And now there's just this. The silence isn't a strategy anymore. It's my reality. He blocked my number. My hundreds of frantic, rambling texts, apologies, accusations, pleas, all sit there with that mocking red, not delivered notification. I tried calling, and it goes straight to a cold, robotic voicemail. Our mutual friends, God, it's so awkward. They answer the phone, and I can hear the pity and the discomfort in their voices. They give me vague, non-committal answers. "He just needs some space, Amelia. I don't want to get in the middle of this. They must know I did this." So I just sit here, in the quiet, in the apartment that feels way too big now. And I stare at the whiteboard. It's the only thing he left behind that feels like it belongs to him. His 2 words are still there, a perfect black scar on the clean white surface. "Goodbye, Amelia." Sometimes I pick up my blue marker. My hand hovers over the board. I think about writing, "I miss you" underneath his words, but it feels so pathetic and pointless. I think about writing "I hate you," but it feels like a lie. Most of the time, I just want to take the eraser and wipe the whole thing clean, pretend this week never happened. But I can't. I'm terrified that if I erase his words, it'll be like erasing the last little piece of him I have left. I keep replaying that week in my head, like a detective studying a crime scene. A crime I committed. I hate him for leaving, for not seeing that my stupid, elaborate cruelty was just a messed up cry for attention. For not knowing that I was just a scared kid in a woman's body who wanted to be told she was loved. But mostly, I just hate myself. Because I knew exactly what I was doing. On day 4, when he begged me to stop, I could have stopped. I could have thrown that stupid board in the trash and fallen into his arms. But I didn't. I chose to be right instead of being happy. I chose to win a battle that cost me the entire war. I had a plan, a brilliant, clever plan to prove a point. And it worked, I guess. I proved that his red line was real. I won that stupid, meaningless argument about the dinner party. And the prize for winning? I get to live alone with this whiteboard, his final judgment, and the deafening silence of my victory.